what if we don't hire you? Now, this is a very interesting question. It kind of tests your ability to think on your feet and your ability to react to negative situations, and um, your ability to handle and navigate negative conversations. Now, our first instinct is to say, oh, I'll get a better job, or, there's an issue with your process and stuff like that. And our first assumption is that we are asked this question because they don't want to hire us. But I would say don't jump to any of those conclusions, because this is sometimes just a psychological question to see how you handle yourself in such situations. And there are different ways you can answer this question. I think one is start off with something that's a little humorous, and it's on you as against them, or it's on the situation as against a humor or a joke on the interviewer by saying something like, well, that wouldn't be the first time something like that is happening to me, but on a serious note, and then you can talk about your answer. And if you want to, and it's important to gauge the situation. If the interviewer is not the type who likes humor, then you don't want to say that. But if the interviewer is, if the interviewer, or even the environment of the interview, if it's more calm and relaxed, then you can always add in a little humor. Humor is always good. But if not, if the person's very serious, and the interview is also very serious, it's okay to begin on a serious note. And so I guess the serious answer would be something like, well, I've always wanted to play such a role, and then you list down what are the key characteristics, or what are the key requirements of the role, which kind of shows, again, you've researched the role. So I've always wanted to play such a role, or I've always wanted to work for a company like yours, and then talk about a few important things that you've researched about the company, maybe the vision, and things like that. And talk about that, and say, that said, I respect your decision, and it would be great if you could give me some targeted feedback, so I know the areas I should work on. So that way you're showing that you have humility. You can take you can handle rejection well. You can take negative feedback well. And not just that you're a person who's always wanting to learn and grow. Not just that, okay, if you're someone who, the moment people find fault with you, you are just going to go off into a shell and be negative. You're not that kind of a person. And if needed, you can again add some humor into this by saying that, uh, you know that way when I try the next time, you won't have to ask me this question. So you add that humor as well. And then I think another thing about humor is that if it is a very people centric role, or if it's a role that is into sales and people interaction, then it's really okay for you to have a little bit of humor in your answer, as long as it's the right humor. Whereas if it's an individual contributor role where you're just going to be working by yourself, it's okay not to have humor. But I would always say a little bit of humor always helps, but don't cross the line. Don't go overboard with humor.